Let me ask you something. How many hours of sleep did you get last night? If your answer is less than 7, you're not alone, and you're not okay either. In today's hustle culture, it's become almost normal to brag about running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, as if being exhausted is a badge of honor. But here's the truth. Sleep deprivation doesn't make you strong. It makes you slower, foggier, more emotional, and even dangerous. In this video, we're going to break down what actually happens to your brain when you're not getting enough sleep, and the answers may shock you. We'll talk about why your memory falls apart after an all-nighter, how your brain starts to malfunction emotionally, what's going on when you feel wired but tired, and yes, even how lack of sleep can trigger hallucinations and long-term brain damage. This isn't about scaring you, it's about waking you up to the science that most of us ignore, because sleep isn't just downtime, it's brain maintenance, and when you skip it, it's like trying to run a car without ever changing the oil. If you've ever felt foggy, unmotivated, overly reactive, or just mentally off, and you don't know why, this could be the missing piece. So grab a blanket, not a coffee. You're about to learn what sleep, or the lack of it, is really doing inside your head. Let's dive in. Sleep isn't just a break from the day, it's a biological necessity as important as food and water, and nowhere is that more true than in your brain. While you're asleep, your brain isn't shutting down. It's actually switching gears, running maintenance, clearing waste, organizing memories, and restoring balance. Let's start with the basics. Your sleep cycle is made up of 2 main types of sleep, non-REM and REM. Non-REM sleep is where your body does most of its physical recovery, slowing your heart rate, repairing tissue, strengthening the immune system. But REM sleep, that's when your brain gets to work. During REM, your brain becomes incredibly active. You dream, you process emotions, you consolidate short-term memories into long-term ones. It's like your brain is backing up your hard drive while you're unconscious. Another critical process happens during deep sleep. Your brain's glymphatic system kicks in. This is your brain's cleaning crew. It flushes out metabolic waste, including proteins like beta amyloid, stuff that, when it builds up, is linked to Alzheimer's disease. So yes, sleep literally clears toxins from your brain. Now here's the catch. All of this only works if you're getting enough quality sleep. Miss out on even a few hours, and your brain can't finish its work. You might skip REM cycles, mess up memory consolidation, and miss your mental reset. Think of it like trying to reboot your phone, but canceling it halfway through. The apps glitch, the battery drains faster, nothing runs quite right. So when you cut your sleep short, you're not toughing it out. You're operating with a brain that's partially offline. The result? You start the next day slower, less focused, more irritable, and more vulnerable to emotional and cognitive mistakes. Sleep isn't just rest, it's restoration, it's mental housekeeping, and without it, your brain begins to fall behind, fast. Next, let's look at what that actually feels like. What happens to your brain when you don't get enough sleep, starting from the very first night? If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. So, what exactly happens in your brain when you don't get enough sleep? Let's say you pulled an all-nighter, or maybe you just stayed up a few hours too late. Either way, by the next morning, your brain is already operating at a deficit. The first part of the brain to suffer is the prefrontal cortex. That's the area responsible for logic, reasoning, focus, and self-control. Sleep-deprived, it slows down significantly. You can't concentrate, you're easily distracted, you make bad decisions, your willpower tanks. This is why you're more likely to eat junk food, skip workouts, or send that risky text you probably shouldn't. Next, your amygdala goes haywire. This is your brain's emotional alarm system, and without sleep, it becomes overactive. Little annoyances feel huge. Your mood swings hard. You snap at people for no reason or feel like crying over something tiny. Basically, your emotional volume knob gets cranked up and you can't turn it down. At the same time, your dopamine system takes a hit. That's the part of your brain that regulates motivation, pleasure, and reward. Ironically, sleep deprivation can make you feel wired, but it's a fragile high. You're tired, but jittery, motivated, but unfocused. That's your brain running on chemical fumes. Reaction time slows, memory gets patchy, judgments become sloppy. In fact, after just 24 hours without sleep, your mental performance can resemble someone who's legally drunk. Now imagine doing this night after night. Even losing just 1 or 2 hours of sleep a night, over time, creates a form of chronic sleep debt, and the effects compound. You're not just tired, you're cognitively impaired. And here's the kicker, you don't notice how impaired you are. Studies show that people who are sleep deprived consistently underestimate how badly their brain is functioning. It's like trying to drive with a fogged-up windshield, while convinced you can still see perfectly fine. So when you say, "I'm used to it," what you really mean is, you've gotten used to being underpowered. Next up, let's talk about how this affects your ability to think, learn, and remember. Because sleep isn't just about staying awake, it's about staying smart. Let's talk about how sleep, or the lack of it, affects your ability to think, learn, and remember. First, understand this. Sleep isn't just a time to rest. It's when your brain does some of its most important cognitive work. One of the key things your brain does during sleep, especially REM sleep, is memory consolidation. This means taking the random, scattered information you picked up during the day and filing it away where it belongs. It's how you move short-term memories into long-term storage. But when you don't get enough sleep, this system gets disrupted. Instead of neatly organizing what you've learned, your brain leaves it in chaos. You wake up foggy, forgetful, and mentally sluggish. Sleep-deprived people have a much harder time focusing and retaining new information. Attention span shrinks, verbal processing slows, creativity suffers. Even basic math or problem-solving starts to feel overwhelming. This is why pulling an all-nighter before a big exam is one of the worst things you can do. You might stay up to cram facts, but without sleep, your brain can't lock that information in. You're basically studying with a leaky bucket, and the effects go beyond school or work. In daily life, this kind of mental decline shows up in small but serious ways, like forgetting names, zoning out in conversations, missing important details, or taking way longer to complete tasks you usually fly through. In one study, people who were sleep-deprived for just 5 nights performed cognitive tasks as poorly as those who were legally intoxicated. Think about that. You wouldn't show up to work drunk, but showing up underslept has almost the same effect on your brain. If you want to stay sharp, productive, and mentally resilient, sleep isn't optional. It's the foundation. Coming up next, let's talk about something that hits even harder than memory loss: your emotions. Because when you're sleep-deprived, you don't just think worse, you feel worse. Let's be honest, when you're tired, you're not exactly your best self. You snap more easily, little things get under your skin. You feel more sensitive, more anxious, more off. That's not just being cranky, that's your brain struggling to regulate your emotions. When you're sleep-deprived, the balance between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex falls apart. The amygdala, your brain's emotional alarm system, goes into overdrive. The prefrontal cortex, your logic and self-control center, goes offline. What does that mean for you? You react more and you reflect less. You might get overly angry about a small inconvenience, feel overwhelmed by things you normally handle easily, cry out of nowhere, or feel completely numb and disconnected. Sleep loss also affects your ability to read other people's emotions. You misinterpret faces, tones, and social cues. That can lead to more arguments, more misunderstandings, and feeling isolated. And the longer this goes on, the more serious it becomes. Chronic sleep deprivation is closely linked to anxiety, depression, and burnout. In fact, people who consistently get less than 6 hours of sleep per night are significantly more likely to develop mood disorders. And if you're already dealing with mental health challenges, poor sleep makes them worse. It creates a vicious cycle. Anxiety makes it harder to sleep. Lack of sleep makes anxiety worse. And round it goes. Even just one bad night of sleep can increase stress hormones, lower your ability to cope, and leave you mentally vulnerable. Now imagine that night repeating itself over weeks or months. Mental health isn't just about your thoughts, it's about your biological state, and nothing shifts your biology faster than sleep, or the lack of it. So if you've been feeling more emotional lately, or like your moods are out of control, don't ignore your sleep. It might be the root of everything you're struggling to manage. Coming up next, what happens when you push sleep deprivation too far? Let's talk about microsleeps, hallucinations, and short-term psychosis. Most people think being sleep-deprived just means feeling tired, but push it far enough, and things start to get weird. After just 24 to 36 hours without sleep, your brain begins to show signs of instability, and things can get dangerous, fast. One of the first things to happen is something called a microsleep. Microsleeps are brief episodes, just a few seconds long, where your brain literally shuts off without warning. Your eyes may be open, you may still be standing or walking, but your brain checks out. You stop processing information. You become completely unaware of your surroundings. And the scariest part, you don't even realize it's happening. This is why driving while sleep-deprived can be as dangerous as drunk driving, if not worse. A few seconds of microsleep behind the wheel is all it takes for a deadly accident. As sleep deprivation continues, your brain starts to malfunction in even more alarming ways. You may begin to experience hallucinations, seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices, or feeling sensations that have no source. Your sense of reality begins to warp, logic breaks down, focus evaporates. In extreme cases, people develop symptoms that look a lot like short-term psychosis, paranoia, disorganized thinking, memory blackouts, and episodes of complete mental confusion. These aren't rare or extreme cases. Sleep studies show that even healthy people, when deprived of sleep long enough, will begin to experience cognitive breakdown and sensory distortion. Your brain simply cannot function without rest. It was never designed to go full throttle 24/7. And here's the harsh truth. You don't have to be up for 48 hours straight to start feeling the effects. Even moderate chronic sleep restriction, like getting 4 to 5 hours a night for a week, can impair your brain as badly as full sleep deprivation over a shorter time. It's not about pulling an all-nighter, it's about the silent buildup of sleep debt that eventually crashes the system. Next up, what happens to your brain in the long run when you keep pushing sleep aside? Let's talk about long-term brain damage and cognitive decline. So far, we've talked about the short-term effects of sleep deprivation, like brain fog, mood swings, and hallucinations. But what about the long-term damage? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If you regularly cheat sleep, your brain doesn't just get tired, it starts to break down. Let's start with something called the glymphatic system. This is your brain's waste removal crew. During deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink to create space for cerebrospinal fluid to wash away toxins, like beta amyloid, the protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. Miss sleep regularly? Those toxins build up, and over years, that buildup increases your risk of neurodegenerative diseases, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. Sleep deprivation also affects brain structure itself. Research shows that chronic lack of sleep is associated with reduced brain volume in areas responsible for memory, focus, and emotion regulation, especially the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus. You're not just functioning poorly while you're sleep deprived. You may be permanently damaging the parts of your brain that help you function in the first place. And it doesn't end there. Sleep loss affects neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, adapt, and learn. That means your ability to bounce back from challenges, recover from mistakes, or grow mentally over time, all get blunted. Add in the increased risks of stroke, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, and even depression, and you start to see the bigger picture. Sleep isn't a luxury. It's one of the most protective, restorative, and essential functions your body has. And here's the kicker. You can't fully make up for chronic sleep loss by sleeping in on weekends. Your brain doesn't just bounce back like that. It takes consistent, high-quality sleep to rebuild what's been lost. If you've been running on fumes for months or years, this isn't a scare tactic. It's a wake-up call. But there's good news. You don't have to keep running this way. Next, let's talk about how to reset, recover, and protect your brain, starting tonight. We'll cover practical habits and real strategies to improve your sleep and reclaim your mind. By now, you get it. Sleep is essential, not just for energy, but for focus, mood, memory, and long-term brain health. So the real question is, how do you fix your sleep? Let's start here. You can't catch up on sleep with one good night. Your brain doesn't work like a bank account. Lost sleep doesn't just get deposited back. What you can do is build habits that help your brain trust it's going to get rest every night. Here are some of the most effective strategies. 1. Set a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time, even on weekends. This resets your circadian rhythm and trains your brain to wind down naturally. 2. Cut off screens at least an hour before bed. Blue light from phones, laptops, and TVs disrupts melatonin, the hormone that signals it's time to sleep. Replace screen time with reading, journaling, or calming music. 3. Watch your caffeine clock. Caffeine can stay in your system for 6 to 10 hours. If you're drinking coffee late in the day, it might be why you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. 4. Create a sleep-friendly environment. Cool, dark, and quiet is the goal. Use blackout curtains, white noise, or even sleep masks and earplugs. Your brain loves a calm cave. 5. Build a wind-down ritual. Stretch, breathe deeply, drink herbal tea, meditate. Your body needs signals that it's time to shift gears. 6. Don't lie in bed wide awake. If you can't fall asleep after 20 to 30 minutes, get up and do something relaxing until you feel drowsy. Lying there frustrated only builds anxiety. 7. Seek professional help if needed. If you're dealing with insomnia, sleep apnea, or chronic fatigue, talk to a doctor or sleep specialist. Sometimes the root cause needs more than good habits. It needs treatment. Remember, sleep is not lost time. It's when your brain repairs, recharges, and protects your future self. So tonight, instead of one more episode, give your brain what it's begging for: real, restorative rest. Up next, the final word. Why this matters more than ever in a world that constantly pushes us to do more and sleep less. So here's the bottom line. Sleep isn't optional. It's not a weakness. It's not wasted time. It's the most powerful tool your brain has to heal, grow, and function at its best. We've seen how sleep deprivation wrecks your focus, blunts your memory, hijacks your emotions, distorts your reality, and increases your risk for serious long-term brain damage. And yet, we live in a world that treats sleep like an inconvenience, something to sacrifice in the name of productivity, success, or hustle. But here's the truth. You can't perform at your best when your brain is running on empty. You can't focus if your prefrontal cortex is offline. You can't stay calm if your amygdala's on fire. And you can't build the life you want if your mind is slowly breaking down from the inside out. The good news, you can change this, starting tonight. Not by overhauling your life, but by making simple, consistent choices that tell your brain, you're safe, you can rest. Because the real flex isn't how long you can go without sleep. It's how well you protect your brain by giving it what it needs most. So shut the laptop, silence the notifications, put the phone down, protect your sleep like your life depends on it, because it does. Thanks for watching. If this helped you rethink your relationship with sleep, share it, drop a comment, or send it to someone who needs this reminder. Take care of your mind. Let it rest. You deserve that peace.